Good evening. Tonight I'm going to do a few things. The first thing is for the BTS armies that have joined us in the last 4 weeks. The usage of this YouTube channel has tripled since the 1st of April, and I'm very grateful for that. And it's largely members of BTS Army. And so for them, I have a surprise tonight, or a couple of surprises, some unboxings, and then we'll move over into the Jung material. But the first thing is an unboxing of my single album for Map of the Soul Persona, which is the name of the new album by BTS. It was just dropped on April the 12th. Last week it was already #1 album in the world. And on Wednesday night, BTS is up for 2 awards at the Billboard Music Awards presentation show on Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. And they will be performing Boy with Love with Halsey, who is a very popular singer in the U.S., a woman singer. So there'll be the 7 Korean BTS group and Halsey on the Billboard Music Awards. So I hope you'll all join us at that time at 8 p.m. on Wednesday. But today I got my single copy of the album. I had gotten my 4 version set because originally the Amazon said, well, there's 4 versions of this album, and we won't guarantee which one you'll get, but if you order all 4, you can have all 4. So I did a unboxing for the all 4 a couple of weeks back, and that was very popular. And so I'm going to unbox my single set this evening. So it came from by Postal Service Express, UPS tracking, from Seoul, Korea. This is where this has come from. And it's come in beautiful bubble wrap. And I got my scissors here, so I'm ready to go with this. And of course, for all the men in the audience, this may seem a little bit strange because the fan group of BTS is 92% women, and that has been shown to me by various BTS members over the last week in statistics they're keeping in Korea. But one man claimed that it was only young teenage girls, and that's definitely not true. And that young man, I challenged on his statement that it was all teenage girls, and my tweet that challenged him has been retweeted over 13,700 times, and it's been liked 31,700 times, something like that. So the BTS armies have definitely made a statement there. And American men probably aren't going to understand BTS yet. The reason I'm interested in them is that they based the new album, and it had a lot of bubble wrap on it, because they based the new album on a Jungian book called Jung's Map of the Soul, an introduction by Dr. Mary Stein, who's one of the leading Jungian analysts in the world. And so here's the cover of this album that I received, and it's still sealed in plastic. So I'm opening the plastic, and the big reveal here, what fell out was a card. I got this card that shows the BTS group performing, and this is version 01 that I received, okay? And so Amazon wouldn't guarantee what version you would get, but I got version 01, and so it's come in this lovely book with a book of photographs of the young men in it, and a couple things dropped out of it here, so okay, so here's a discussion about BTS, presumably, and about each individual young Korean man, and it's all in Korean, so I won't be able to share that with you, but there it is. And then in this, I'm hoping I have an autographed autographed picture. I'm not sure which young man this is right now. It says JK, and so I have an autographed photograph of him, and I have another card of one of the young men. I'm not sure, this may be Jimin, if I understand correctly, but I'm slowly recognizing these band members. And what I was hoping to get was a poster with this, but what I got was a transparency with pictures of the young men, and I got a survey card, persona map of the soul. And when I bought the four version set, I got 4 posters with it, but it doesn't seem to be the case that there are any posters in my version 1 copy. Let's see. Which is, I got another promo sheet from Big Hit Entertainment, and no poster. So that's a disappointment. I'll pass that along to Big Hit. But I got lots of pictures plus an autographed copy, so that's maybe a compensation. And nope. All right, so that was the unboxing of my single copy of Persona, which I had decided I would open so that I can actually play it, because I decided to keep the 4 version set in mint condition for the time being. Good evening, Gray. You're spending a lot of time with me. I'm sorry I've had a very busy day today, but hopefully I can get to your writing piece tomorrow morning. So that's that. And so also in conjunction with my work with the BTS armies, who many of them have started to show an interest in Jungian psychology, I have a couple of more things to unbox. I got myself a purple shirt, and I'll be wearing this on Wednesday in honor of the big BBMA concert. And I have a copy of Ursula Le Guin's The Wind's 12 Quarters, which is stories, but one of the stories in this is the story, The Ones Who Walk Away from Omelas. And BTS did an earlier album based on this book by Ursula Le Guin, and especially that story about the ones who walk away from Omelas. So I'm looking forward to reading that. And I also got The Art of Loving by Erich Fromm, which is also a one of the books that the BTS group based one of their albums on. So these young men are doing an amazing job of connecting up their music with intellectual pursuits. And so these books are being sold online on their website. And in the case of Murray Stein, I know that his book, Jung's Map of the Soul, Jung's Map of the Soul, an Introduction, by Dr. Murray Stein. This book is now a bestseller around the world, and I know it's been translated into several languages, including Korean. And what they're doing is they're causing young people to educate themselves, because apparently our education systems around the world are incapable of educating people in a sophisticated manner. And so BTS is teaching young people how to educate themselves, and they're giving them an exciting new way to do that. And I'm very thrilled by that phenomenon, because I've been breaking my head for a decade on how to get people to learn something about psychology, because for lack of that learning, we're doing these crazy things in our politics, and we don't need to be. It's really stupid, and it's very sad to be seeing people killing other people over religious differences. So I'm hoping that the whole consciousness of the human species is going to be raised. And if BTS can achieve that, more power to them, I say. Now, I treated myself to one other thing, and that is this book, The Art of C.G. Jung. And I've only just begun to get into it. This image that's on the front cover does appear in the Red Book. And some of the images in this book are from the Red Book. One of the more famous ones is this one. And that's an adept sitting in hyperspace over Geneva, I believe. And he has over him the mandala of the sun and the cross, which represents the 4 points, the left and the right, the earth and the air. And it has many interesting pictures and carvings that Dr. Jung did over his lifetime. If you have the Red Book, you'll remember this picture, for example. And one thing that this is nice is I've been trying to show people online images from the Red Book, and it's rather unwieldy to do that, but at least some of them are a little easier if I show them in this form. And so here's an image that I'd never seen before, and it's called We Fear and We Hope. It was done in 1923. And another one called Philemon in Flight. And Philemon was Dr. Jung's God image. And so there's Philemon. And I actually haven't gotten into this much myself yet because I only got it yesterday. But I did start to read it, and it looks very professionally done. And it does have quite a lot of images that we have not seen before. So if you're interested in the work of C.G. Jung, take a look at this book, The Art of C.G. Jung. So far, I'm recommending it highly. This is one of his mandala images that does appear in the Red Book. It's on the back cover. So those are my unboxings for tonight. And so I'm really and truly getting into it. Now, let me see who we've got here. We have Nat's Ghost. Oh, wow, they did a song on The Ones Who Walk Away from Omelas. Yes. And I'm just in love. I have to listen more. Yes, I have to listen more too, because that song, I believe, is in another album. And there was a reference to it in a song called Spring Day, which was in an earlier album. And it was a criticism of the Korean government over the sinking of the Seoul ferry, the SEWOL ferry incident, which killed many young people. And the captain and his crew went over the side and escaped, leaving the passengers to their fate, which was really horrific. And so BTS did a wonderful song called Spring Day about it. And there is an image about Omelas, and I don't quite know the reference yet, but there is a set that they're dancing on in that song. And it's a very, very heart-wrenching song when you know what the imagery is. So anyway, Alphonse says their music video of their song Spring Day supposedly has elements drawn from the story. Yes, that's what we've just said. Okay, Nat's Ghost says, my friend copied the red book for me, so I just have black and white photocopy. Well, if you send me a email to skip.conover@gmail.com, I can add you to our regular Dropbox for this group, and in there you will find a number of treasures and some things that might surprise you. I don't talk about the contents of that Dropbox on video, but I will add you to the group if you send me your email address. I have to have your email address for Dropbox. I don't care, but I have to give it to you. So it's skip.conover@gmail.com. Jen Sparrow says, hello, this is my first time catching you live on here. I really appreciate you taking the time to talk with us about Jung and BTS. I just started reading Jung's Map of the Soul, an introduction, and it's a good book. I read it, I got it on Audible several years ago, and I sort of got it just as a refresher, just to make sure I hadn't missed any critical topics in Jungian psychology. And at the time, the first time I went through it, I thought of it as a little bit superficial personally, and because I'm so heavily into Jungian psychology, and I've been reading this stuff for 30 years, so it's intended for laymen. This is the book, and I did not have the hardbound copy of it. I only had the Audible version. So I just listened to it and I said, yeah, okay, I know all those things. But now that BTS has forced me to go back and focus on the book and to see how they're connecting up young people and older people too, because people all over the globe have contacted me about this now. It's really a fairly tight discussion of Dr. Jung's work. You can spend a lifetime on Dr. Jung's work, and And it's a good thing to do because it can be a self-regulating process to read his work and help you with your own mental balance. That's how I've used it over all these years, and it's one of the main reasons why I started this group, was to share my experience with others, because I think his work is so powerful, and I don't think you can get this information anywhere else. I mean, I tried. At one point, I wrote to all the universities in my area asking to be an adjunct professor to teach Jungian psychology, and I offered to do several courses, and I got no takers. Mainly the Freudians control the psychology departments, the theologians control the religion departments, and they don't want you to know what Dr. Jung knew, which is that Dr. Jung penetrated through to the source of all religions, and they don't want you to know that because they want to be the intermediary between you and your soul. And so the religion departments wouldn't take me, and the deans couldn't get interested because they don't understand it, and so nobody took it up. So there are a couple of places on sort of a graduate school basis that you can study Jungian psychology. One is Saybrook University, I believe, which I'm told in the last week is in Houston. I thought it was in Long Island, but I apparently was wrong. But anyway, it's connected with the Jung Center in Houston, Texas. And another is Pacifica Graduate Institute, which really focuses on Jungian style studies. And then there are Jung institutes around the world, or around the U.S. and around the world, which are designed to train Jungian analysts. But from my perspective, there's much more to learn in Jungian psychology than just how to be an analyst. And so the Jungian analysts have sort of kept that a deep, dark secret for many years, and they have kind of suppressed the religion aspect of Dr. Jung's work. And, one of the leading Jungian analysts said to me, well, you can't blame us. We were trying to protect a fledgling profession. Okay, so I don't blame them under those circumstances, and they were trying to create a profession of psychotherapy and Jungian analysis. And so it wasn't their task to get Jungian work out. But of course, because that's the main way that Jung's work was studied until recently, and at least until the Red Book was published, it's very hard to find anybody who knows anything about it. But what I've always been impressed by is that the things he taught are things that can save millions of lives, and could have saved millions of lives in the 20th century if we had more knowledge about it. And so I became interested in Jungian psychology mainly for a public policy point of view. And I actually wrote a book called Political Psychology, New Ideas for Activists. And that whole book is based on my essays, which come off of various things that Dr. Jung said. And if you're a member of our Dropbox, you can find a copy of that book for free electronically in the Dropbox, so you don't have to go out and buy it. But I also publish a website called archetypeinaction.com, and on there I've published 3,500 essays, and about 200 of them are mine. And so I'll just give you the link to that. And I'm getting a message on my screen saying that an error occurred. Please try again later or click on such and such to learn more. And I don't know what that error was. It appears that I'm still online, both on YouTube and on my broadcast software. So I'm going to keep going. And if someone will confirm that you're still seeing and hearing me, that will be helpful. Let's see. Jen Sparrow says, hello, okay. Okay. And, okay, I've covered those comments. If there are any other comments or questions, let me know. Now, I've sort of rethought what I'm trying to do here, and because BTS armies are coming into Jung's psychology newly, I've decided to run a basic course, and I'm doing that every morning to the extent I can at 10 a.m. And that won't be tomorrow, by the way, because I have a commitment tomorrow. But I will run a session tomorrow. It's going to be a bit catch as catch can, but it may be at about 12:30 or 1 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. I will do a session because we're talking about we're talking about the stages of consciousness in those sessions. I've done 2 already on the stages of consciousness, stages 1 and 2, and stages 3 and 4 I did this morning. And I'm going to do stages 5 through 7 tomorrow, but probably around 12:30 or 1 o'clock, or 12:30 if I can manage it. I have to take my mother-in-law to the doctor first, so if I get home in time, I will do that tomorrow. And I'm going to talk about these stages of consciousness in this session for my regular group. This is the 125th session of this reading group, and since it's a topic that's on the top of my mind, I'm going to just give a very quick run through of these stages of consciousness. And I consider this group kind of an intermediate group, because I have many members here who have been joining me every Monday night for the last 3 years. And so they are all familiar with the fundamental vocabulary of Jungian psychology. So I'm considering this an intermediate group, and for this group, up until for the last few sessions, we've been talking about Psychology and Alchemy by C.G. Jung, which is volume 12 of the collected works of C.G. Jung. And this book is we're probably going to be working on it for about a year, is what I guess. And then we have a advanced reading group for those who actually are prepared to join us for $10 a month. The first 2 groups are free, or free except for donations, but the advanced reading group, I ask for a donation of $10 a month, and I run that group on Wednesdays at 1:30 p.m. In order to accommodate our European followers. And we have done 32 sessions on Ion, which is Dr. Jung's book on researches on the phenomenology of the self. And we've now started Mysterium Conjunctionis, which is Dr. Jung's last book, and it is the most complex book, and we've done 12 sessions on that, and all of the video for those sessions is available online. So if you decide to join our advanced group at some point, you will be able to find everything from the beginning. But we do that on Zoom, so it has a separate Dropbox and so on. And okay, I'm glad Brent can hear me fine. Thanks, Brent, for coming tonight. Nice to see you. And great, Jen's also seeing it. Okay, so I threatened you with the stages of consciousness, and so I just want to run through them quickly for you, and this is an overview. I'm not going to read this whole thing because I'm reading it into the morning sessions, but I have been reading the whole write-up that Dr. Stein did, but I just wanted to give you a sense of it because there are levels of consciousness. And so let's first make a distinction between awareness and consciousness. So every living thing is aware, going down to single-cell organisms, and even single-cell organisms have an awareness of something that causes them to reproduce. And obviously, when sex was invented, which was very, very early, it may have been in single cells. I don't know. That's something maybe Gray can tell us. But it was very early in the evolution of life. Obviously, the creatures that were reproducing at that time, and presumably still are, at least had awareness of the opposite sex for the purpose of reproduction. And so awareness is in all living creatures. But consciousness is something else. Consciousness has to do with being aware of the fact that you're alive and being aware of the fact that you will die, and being aware of the fact that you can abstract things and develop products. You're not just at the mercy of Mother Nature. So out in the plateaus of Africa, where herds of different kinds of species run around wild and have done for hundreds of millions of years, they don't think about it. They just live by instinct. And so if a lion comes and takes a weak gazelle out of the herd, the rest of the herd doesn't even think about it. That's just the way of life, and they're not even conscious of the fact that their time will come too. And the lion isn't aware that it will die either. And so that consciousness is reserved only for human beings. And so if we talk about the first stage of consciousness, then we're talking about what Dr. Jung called participation mystique, which was a phrase he borrowed from Levi Brule in the late 19th century. And what it means is that you're born into a species and you sort of do as the others do. And you're not even aware that you're a separate thing from everything else in the world. And primitive peoples are like that. And even in Dr. Jung's time, he could go out in Uganda and Kenya and find primitive tribes that were still living like that and thinking that way. I think that these tribes are few and far between today, but there may still be a few in places like Papua New Guinea and other places. I'm not too sure where they are, but but anyway, the idea is the primitive tribes lived in the forest, and at night there could have been ghosts out there in the forest or whatever it was, and they could conjure up all kinds of things. But gradually we came to a second stage of consciousness, and that was a stage of consciousness in which one learned to project a God image on our parents and on adults, let's say. So if you're a child, you're going through this stage at some point, probably when you're 2 to 5 years old, and all adults seem godlike. I mean, I remember being in this stage where all the adults were huge and they controlled the world, and who's going to argue, right? And so at that stage, you think of your parents as gods, and your dad can do anything, and your mom is the best mom ever, the best cook ever, etc. And then you move into a third stage, and that stage is typified, among other things, by teenagers who then think, oh, my parents don't know anything, and they're not gods. And then there's that friction, which many of us remember from teenage children or from our own teenage years. But at that time, the projections that say that mom and dad are God get withdrawn, and they get put out instead onto abstract things, onto churches and mosques and synagogues, and the God image of those religions, and also on various isms like republicanism or democratism, whatever that is. Each one of them gets a loyalty, and so in the United States, people who are atheist tend to have materialism as a god, and so that's the third level. And then I'm sure all of you remember the fourth level. Now, the fourth level is what Dr. Stein calls modernity, and in modernity, we say that there's no God, and we say, and I have said it myself, that there's no God up there. We can see back to the Big Bang. We don't see any God up there. We don't see any devil down below us. Those myths are untrue. And we've had this, which is an empty God. And so when you have materialism as your empty God, then things look pretty bleak, because now you're back to dog eat dog and the devil take the hindmost, and so on. And so as you see here, it's an empty God because this fellow, whoever bought this 63-foot motor yacht and named it Never Enough, that was his God, his goal for many years probably, and then ultimately gets it, and it's not enough, and then he wants something else, presumably. That's the significance of his name. And it's very sad, but it's a commentary on modern life, where everybody's trying to put value into things, except things have no spiritual value. And so when you get them, then you say, okay, been there, done that. And you either have to go for something bigger, and so we see the sort of the epitome of this attitude in the President of the United States, who's got all the things, and he's got the beautiful wife. He says he has all the money in the world. He's got buildings around the world and golf courses galore that he owns, and now he owns the White House. And but is he happy? No, I don't think there's anybody that can tell me that that man is happy, including him, and convince me of it. And so that's sort of the end of the hero's journey. The hero's journey is you build up your family, you build up your career, you make a bunch of money maybe, or you make enough money to live on, and then what? Okay, I mean, just think of Luke Skywalker in Episode 4 of Star Wars. You know, what was going to be after the day when he was the hero and got marched up in front of everybody and he got a medal pinned on his chest. And then what? Okay, it's like in the U.S. military, you know, one young man got part of his face blown off, and I think he lost part of his leg, and they awarded him with the Medal of Honor, and they had a very nice parade for him at Marine Barracks, Washington, with the full barracks out there and the Commandant of the Marine Corps, and everybody gave him a medal, or they gave him a medal, and they gave him a flag for the medal, and he had all these things, and he had that wonderful day. But then what? Okay, then what? Because he's still a 35 or 40-year-old man, and in terms of getting accolades, it doesn't get any better than that. And so then you have to start looking to yourself for happiness. And that's what the next stage of consciousness is. And what you can learn at that stage, certainly, is that at this fifth stage of consciousness, which is called post-modernity, okay? And so in post-modernity, you can learn that there actually is something, okay? And you no longer need to believe. You don't have to be convinced by a pastor who's going to harangue you every Sunday, making you believe this or that about the Bible or about Islam if you're a Muslim or a rabbi. You don't have to believe what they say because you know, okay? And in that stage of consciousness, then you actually don't need a creed any longer, because once you've had this experience, there's no need for a creed. Although we have to keep in mind that these creeds are all uniquely evolved methods of psychotherapy that developed over thousands of years. And so the rituals of all religions satisfy certain psychic needs that help people have mental balance. That's what they do. And it doesn't, from the physical world point of view, it doesn't matter that they're not true in the physical world, because we're not talking about the physical world. As Dr. Jung pointed out point blank in Answer to Job, paragraph 752, he said that every religious statement of whatever kind is a statement of the psyche. It's not a statement of the physis. It's not a statement of the physical world. And so when we say every word of the Bible is true, yes, it is true. but many of the things in the Bible are not true in the physical world. Okay, and if you go back and look at many of the amazing events in the Bible, you'll find that they're based on dreams and visions. And this includes Moses, it includes Abraham, it includes Job, it includes the divinity of Jesus Christ and the dreams that Mary and Joseph had. It includes Jacob wrestling with the angel, and it includes the Apostle Paul on the road to Damascus. All those things occurred from dreams and visions. And also, the same is true in the Quran. I understand that many parts of the Quran came from dreams that the prophet had, peace be upon him. But it also includes many of the stories that were contained in the Bible. And it seems that I have lost everyone. So if anybody is still watching, I hope you'll say hello. But I'll just finish my points in case I need to use the video that I'm making locally for this. But the point is that many of the stories that are contained in the Holy Bible are stories that also appear in the Quran. And Moses himself appears in a story in the Quran in an action with Al-Khidr, who is the so-called green one in Islam. And he and Moses have an interaction in Surah 18 of the Quran. And so, Art, are we back online? Can we keep going? Because what I have is I have a red light on my broadcast software, and it appears that YouTube says that my stream health is bad. It says that I'm live, but my stream health is bad. So are you still hearing me or seeing me? Viewers may be having minor issues, it says. And meanwhile, my broadcast software has a red light. So, okay, that may sort of shorten tonight's session if I don't have anybody online, and just don't know what's causing this, because I've increased the RAM on my computer. I doubled my live stream capabilities on through my internet service provider. Let me just check and see. I want to do a speed test since I now have learned how to do that. Just see if I still have the speed coming out. This will take a moment. It's claiming to be online, but I don't understand why this keeps happening. So hopefully before next week, I'm going to get some other software to interact with YouTube, because my outgoing stream looks fine too. So very disappointing what's happening, because I never had any problem before. And so I apologize, but it seems that somehow I'm not getting a good broadcast going out. So anyway, I hope that I basically have gotten through some key points for this video, and I'll leave it at that, I guess, for tonight. And if I can figure out how to get back online. I probably won't get back online this week, unfortunately. But I appreciate your being here tonight, and I will be online again next week at 8 p.m. as usual. So thank you for joining me today. And I'm going to disconnect for tonight, but thank you for being here.